Hey, this is Brian again, and I'd like to ask you to do a favor. We can't do this work without people like you, so if you can, please like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends about Bring Back the Porch.
A lot of times back in the day, it was, Bill, he was in the service, so, he might have some problems, so just stay away from him.
And you did?
Well, now they had a social network that they could get out, even if it was just a case of going and having a beer, having a talk, having a cigarette with a guy, a buddy, meant the world, and it helped them get past that, and then they were able to open up more after that.
This episode of Bring Back the Porch brought to you by Medicine at Monumental, crafting quality memorials of distinction since 1970. July the 17th is an important day in Canadian history, and we're at the Royal Canadian Legion, Robertson Memorial Branch number 17, with Wes Krause, who is the archives officer here at the Legion. What is so special about July the 17th, Wes?
It's a very special day for the Royal Canadian Legion, because in 1926, that's when the Legion was officially formed. It came out of a meeting called the Unity Conference. And what that was a group of about 60 delegates from different veterans organizations across the country. They got together and talked about their common goals, their common concerns. So what they did, they formed what was called the Canadian Legion of the branch of the British Empire Service League. That officially started in 1926. And from that point, it grew and kept on growing. Now, there's actually a genesis before that as well, too. And it was shortly after Vimy Ridge in 1918, actually, that the Great War Veterans Association is formed. So when you think about this, why did they form these associations? What was the reason behind it? Well, it was a support network. And that's what the Legion does today. They still do that today. It gives veterans a venue and an opportunity to sit down with other veterans that they either served with or had served in the military, so they could talk about things, get things off their chest. Back in the day, there's the thought of this, the PTSD wasn't really a thing, but there were guys that were having some problems. So they're able to talk this out, and in an atmosphere that they felt comfortable with. And that was a key thing. And that was the genesis of it. So it developed, and it kept on developing after that.
Back in those days, at the end of the First World War, veterans would come home and nothing.
That was it.
That was it. You're back from the war, thanks for your service.
That's right.
Carried.
Yeah.
But there was lots, like you say, there was things that they had to deal with, and there was no support.
None whatsoever. And families were not the support network. Families couldn't understand, in many cases, couldn't understand what they went through. And that was a key thing. Like, how could you relate to your son or your daughter or even your wife or girlfriend or whatever, that what you experienced over there? In some cases, it was horrific. In some cases, it may not have been as bad, but the experience in itself, you just couldn't give it to them. And also, too, a lot of these guys, they tried to protect their families from those horrors that they experienced. So that was the other thing that they found it a great difficulty trying to relate. But then again, too, how can you relate to someone that didn't serve? That was the other thing. By sitting among your friends and fellow servicemen, they did the same thing you did in the service. They experienced many times the same things that you experienced. So they're able to talk this out and get it off their chest and relieve some of the stress and the anxiety and whatever it is. But it also was social. See, and a lot of times back in the day, it was, Bill, he was in the service, so, he might have some problems, so just stay away from him.
And you did?
Well, now they had a social network that they could get out, even if it was just a case of going and having a beer, having a talk, having a cigarette with a guy, a buddy, meant the world, and it helped them get past that. And then they were able to open up more after that.
PTSD, I think they used to refer to it as shell shock.
Yeah, it was pretty bad stuff. Different levels of it, of course. I've seen videos of guys that were suffering from shell shock, and they just were shaking, completely uncontrollable shaking. We can't fathom that. As civilians, we can't get our heads around that. Civilians, we watch a movie. Yeah, we'll watch Saving Private Ryan or The Longest Day and some of the other ones that are pretty good movies, or really good movies, accurate. We can't experience that in any way, shape, or form because we can't grasp that. We can sit down and talk with a veteran, say a fellow someone that served in Afghanistan. We can sit down and have a chat with them, but we still can't explain. We can't grasp that. Yeah, they served in a country that was all sand and was hot as Hades. Well, yeah, we get hot here. We get 35 above. Yeah, but it's not the same. Not even close. So it's hard for veterans to kind of have a logical discussion with a civilian, for lack of a better phrase, because they don't know.
One of the roles, I believe, of the Early Veterans Association was to advocate for help for veterans to government.
That was a key thing. At the time, again, the government really didn't have an idea or a plan how to deal with that. So the Legion was quite instrumental in the formation of Veterans Affairs in the government. And it was through their advocacy that they got this department within the government to start becoming more aware, and then also petitioning the government and other funding sources to provide some monies to help these guys with different programs. So the Legion has programs that they work with Veterans Affairs. If someone comes in and says, "Yeah, I've got some," say for example, I can't get my hearing aid. My hearing's gone from when I served. What can I do? Well, they can provide the avenues to go through. Or if the guy's I got trouble. I can't bear with what I've experienced. Okay, we've got these resources, counseling, etc., that we can provide for you. And as a Legion member, that's something that the Legion will do for them.
The website for the Royal Canadian Legion is full of information that, as I was going through it, I was going, I didn't know that. November the 11th, that was designated as a day of remembrance pre-Legion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Legion was very instrumental in having that enshrined as an official day. The government really never thought of that. I mean, no government did. Yeah, so what? It's the end of the war. Whatever. Well, the Legion worked with the government to get that happening. So that's an amazing thing. But also, too, the Legion was quite instrumental in what was called the Poppy Campaign.
1921, I believe, the first campaign.
I think you're right, yeah. But it was actually adopted through the Great War Veterans Association. That's how they started it. And it was all a case of its traditions, and it's also raising money and awareness through that. It took a while for the government to say, well, hey, you've been really good at doing this. I think we should really enshrine that as your official, what do you call it?
An act of Parliament.
Exactly.
1948.
1948, and it was a trademark protection of the poppy. Now, there are other countries use that as well too, variations thereof. But in Canada, that's the Legions.
And the poppy, of course, ties into Flanders Field.
That's right.
Famous poem.
Written by a very cool dude.
Another Canadian.
That's correct.
When I was looking back, like in 1926, we said July the 17th, they had, this is when he became into existence as the Canadian Legion. But in the first year, he already had 160 branches across Canada. That's a phenomenal growth.
It grew very rapidly, especially when veterans knew what was being made available to them. Over the years, veterans have supported the Legion in a huge way because the Legion supports veterans and their concerns. So they just step up to the plate and they're there. They did an amazing amount of stuff, not only just for veterans and that, but they've done so many things that the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, they're instrumental, that was added to the National War Memorial. It was a, what do they call it? It was a Legion Millennium Project. I don't know how far back that it goes, but it's amazing when you think about it, an organization that started out of honoring service, helping veterans, grew to what it is today, and it's still growing. Now, naturally, the veterans that were early veterans, they're pretty much gone. You know, we're looking at now Korean War veterans. There's virtually none of them around. There's very, very few of them. World War II, of course, they're in their 90s to 100s right now. So now we're looking at a newer generation. Vietnam era, yeah, Canadians served in Vietnam, Afghanistan, the Balkan states and stuff like that, trying to get them involved. It's a little bit difficult because a lot of those fellows have careers, and they're still working. So trying to balance that work and Legion time gets to be a bit of a challenge, but we do have guys stepping up to the plate.
Let's pause for a moment so we can share some exciting news. We're proud to announce that our work here at Bring Back the Porch is getting noticed. From October to the end of January, our videos and reels viewed more than 1 million times. Some of those viewers could be your customers, so sponsoring Bring Back the Porch is a great way to get your message in front of them too. If you'd like to support our work here at Bring Back the Porch, we ask you to go to our website at bringbacktheporch.com and follow the links. Thank you for your support. I set 160 branches in their first year. By January of 1927, the first Legion Dominion Convention, there was over 800 branches. That's 6 months later.
Yeah.
That's boggles the mind. And yet when you look at the door outside here, this is branch number 17.
One of the earliest ones.
One of the early ones.
Yep. I think Red Cliff Legion was number 6, I think. But their incorporation date, I think, is a little about 2 months before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Medicine Hat and District, including Red Cliff, were early adopters of the Legion.
Oh, yeah.
As an entity.
Yep.
There's things that have happened over the years, too, and people probably would like to know why it's the Royal Canadian Legion, how that came about.
That was by royal assent by the Queen at the time. What it does, it allows a royal patronage process that it becomes recognized through the Crown, which is like an overseeing body at the time, and it still kind of is today. And it provides legitimacy more than just the Legion. It's the Royal Canadian Legion. We had a group in Medicine Hat called the United Services Institute, and they were a group of veterans, and they would get together, very similar to what the Legion was, but this is a younger demographics, and they petitioned the Crown for royal designation. It was a process. It took a long time. It took about 1.5 years, but they achieved the royal designation. So what that did, again, it put their name on the roll of honor or on a roll in the hierarchy and in the, what do you call it? The royal family and the royal designation. So it was very important because now that opened it up to not just a Canadian thing, but the royal aspect had other connotations as well, too, to Britain, to Australia, New Zealand, other Commonwealth countries.
I believe up to 1959, it was known as the Canadian Legion of the British Empire Service
League. Yep. Yeah, that's what it was. It's quite a long...
Yeah, wouldn't fit over the door.
No, it wouldn't. It's interesting, the British Empire League and Service League that is, again, it's all related to the Commonwealth and the British Empire. So Canada was just at the first steps of kind of moving themselves out from under that, but to become an entity, which Canada became really quite an entity at Vimy Ridge after that battle. But this was the next step on the organizations that were involved with, veterans, etc.
One of the traditions of the Legion is the Silver Cross Mother.
Yeah.
That I think began early, right after the formation in 1926, to a bereaved mother who had lost a son in a war.
There's several aspects to that as well, too. It was something that was Canadian military designation, Commonwealth designation, was any mothers who lost sons or daughters in wartime. They were given what was called a memorial cross. And it's just a simple silver cross with the name of the serviceman on the back. And it's really kind of a poignant memorial to a son or whoever that served their country. There was another aspect of that, of daughters or wives who lost their father or their husband. They're also given what was called a Burke's bar. And those was a simple silver bar made by Burke's Jewelries in, I'm trying to think, and I think it was in Toronto, and it was engraved with the soldier's name and an official folder with a document saying, sorry for your loss. So those are two very poignant memorials to someone's service that they died in service. They are, I've got some here in the collection here for the museum, or for the Legion. In my private collection, I've also got a few pieces as well too. Some that of airmen that were training here in Canada and died in training and never made it overseas.
Yeah.
The mothers received the Memorial Cross because their son had died serving his country. So it was kind of opened that up a little bit broader range. Nonetheless, it is something that's, quite a poignant memorial thereof.
Membership in the Legion has changed over the years as well, as membership has been opened up and expanded to other non-military veterans.
Yes. Initially, it was strictly military service. Myself, I wouldn't have been able to join because I'd never served in the military. But they realized that quite a number of years ago that we're losing people and our numbers are beginning to drop. So we should develop what they called an auxiliary branch, which is an auxiliary member. So at that time, I was able to join the Legion as an auxiliary member. But it took, I'm trying to remember now, at that time, you had to be a member, I think it was for 5 or 6 years before you became a regular member. Mm-hmm. But now, still, I was not eligible for some of the programs, though. That was the only thing, which I understood that going in. Mm-hmm. So I have no problem with that. But being a regular member, there was some backlash to that in a degree, because it was the civilians coming in and becoming members.
Yeah.
Well, the veterans weren't stepping up to the plate as much, but then civilians were stepping up to the plate because they had the, how can I say, not the motivation, but they had it was motivation to help. So a lot of these people were family members of veterans that joined. So, and we've seen that. Like their father or uncle or grandfather served, so they wanted to join the Legion to do what they can to support it. So that's an interesting thing, because the Poppy campaign that I mentioned earlier, here locally, we have about 150 volunteers that step up and help to promote that, to set up kiosks, drop off boxes like with the poppies and you drop a coin or a loonie or whatever you'd like to donate. It's amazing. And some of these people, they never served, but they're there. Mm-hmm. They're helping out because it's something that helps out veterans.
Mhm. We would be remiss if we did not mention the Ladies Auxiliary
Yes,
Canadian Legion. They, I believe, were formed on the next day after 1926 and have walked side by side.
they have. Now, the Ladies Auxiliary, they actually grew like by leaps and bounds. At one time, they had well over 1,000 members here in Medicine Hat. And they were an auxiliary branch to the regular Legion. So they basically, some of them were wives and daughters, etc., of servicemen, and they were there to help out, with organizing functions for fundraising, doing whatever it took to help the Legion prosper. And they did. And they did an amazing job. And they're still active today. They're going through growing pains, just as the Legion has been going through growing pains. And things are changing. Things are morphing. But they're still there. And they're still doing things. And they're still supporting the Legion. It's amazing. Some of those ladies, there's some of them 80 years old, and they're just little firecrackers. They're we're going to do this for the Legion, and this is what we're going to do, and they do it, and it gets done. And the rest of the Legion, they're just the ladies. Yeah, but hey, guys,
Don't get in their way.
exactly.
Yeah. We are in the building here on the corner of 2nd Street and North Royal Way.
Mhm.
This was where the first Legion was, but not in this building.
Not in this building because it was originally a courthouse.
Territorial courthouse.
That's right, and they had an agreement to lease part of the courthouse here for the Legion, and eventually they moved, into another section here. So this building actually dates back to about 1950s, and it's gone through its changes as well too. The building now actually is from, I think it was around 1974 or 76, where the final stages of improvement that it is. It's showing its age. It's an older building. Luckily, we have on our board of executive, we got a maintenance committee, and they are just absolutely amazing what they do to maintain the building and keep it not only up to building code, but keep it clean and keep it safe. And I have to commend those guys, and they're all volunteers. These guys, they're out here doing stuff. I saw them today, and they're going to be doing some stuff. And it's like, you guys got more energy than the ever-ready rabbit. They're dedicated to maintaining this place and keeping the proper appearance. There was a time, quite a number of years ago, where it was beginning to slide a little bit. And a very good friend of mine, it really bothered him. And he was a veteran. He served with the Royal Canadian Air Force overseas in Germany in the 60s. And it bothered him because he had the pride of being a Legion member. And that's what these guys, that's the thing. Legion members, they have a deep pride in being a Legion member, whether you're served or not. Myself, I'm incredibly proud of that because, wear the badge and the service medal and the 100th anniversary medal, the King's Coronation Medal, which I was awarded recently. I think you remember that. That came through the South Alberta Light Horse. And it's kind of humorous because, and I say this in a humorous, it's kind of a bit of a story to a certain degree, that former company sergeant major of the South Alberta Light Horse, he was the president, he'd come up to me and he says, you're wearing that, and that's not regulation. Okay. What do you want me to do?
Beg your pardon?
Yes. I'm sorry, but I'm going to be stubborn. I'm going to wear that. And he's, but it's not regulation. I said, I know. Just relax. We're all going to go home tonight. Everything's good. And he came up on the other day and he said, you don't have a beret? I said, yeah, I don't have a beret. I know that. He said, well, you need a beret. I said, yeah, I should get a beret. So now I got my beret. It's taken a little while to train because it's not when you get it, it's not exactly the best fit, but it's taken a while. I'm just going to work with it. And so I'm waiting for the next meeting that I'm wearing that beret. And I said, hey, buddy, I got my beret. I'm sure he'll be he'll be happy about that.
That's good. Talk a little bit about your work here as the person in charge of the archives.
Imagine being in the boardroom with the world's most influential C-suite executives, exploring big questions about the economy, AI, and hybrid work. Welcome to C-Suite Perspectives, hosted by Steve Odland, President and CEO of the Conference Board, the ultimate podcast for professionals seeking the truth beyond trending headlines. Cut through the noise and dive into data-driven discussions, unbiased, nonpartisan, and straight from the top. Listen to C-Suite Perspectives and harness the power of trusted insights for what's ahead.
I view that as a very, very serious responsibility because, as you know, I'm the curator at the South Alberta Light Horse Regimental Museum. I'm the president of the Mesonet chapter, Canadian Aviation Historical Society, and I do have my own private museum in my house. Preserving military artifacts, whatever age they are, is critically important because that's a tangible, tactile artifact, that sort of thing.
What do you hold it? You're holding something that a veteran has had in his...
Exactly. The way I look at it of preserving that, I also look at it from several different perspectives. If somebody brings something in, hey, I'd like to donate that. The first thing I look at, I, of course, figure out what it is, which I have I know what that is. Yeah, but then I also look at the age, I look at the condition, I look at a lot of aspects about that. And then from that, if it's identified to somebody, is Joe's name on here? No, it's not. Okay, that's okay. But then you look at photographs. That's another key thing. You look at uniforms. We've got some uniforms in here that are amazing stuff. But I also look at it from a value, not just an intrinsic display value, but also an actual monetary value. We've got some things in here that are just mind-blowing. But I don't think about that as being that important. I look at that as being a part of that display, of that thing here. That uniform was worn by this guy, and this is this guy's history. So you can talk about that. That uniform over there, that was worn by this unit, not necessarily a Medistat unit, but it was made in the United States, but it was a lend-lease to the Canadians, to Commonwealth. They wore that in service. So the guy was serving with wearing that piece of uniform right there. Mm-hmm. That's important. The thing about the Legion, and I mentioned this in some of the tours that we get through the historic Crawley tours and such, that this is a multi-branch, branch of service, archives. It's not just about the regiment, like the South Alberta Light Horse, which is what I do at the Armory. That's very focused to that unit and the regiments it perpetuates in history, which date back to 1885. This here, that's related to all branches of the service. The Air Force, the Army, the Armored Corps. It relates to different service branches, the United Nations and stuff like that. It relates to the Women's Corps. So we've got material that goes past all of those different things. So that's where somebody said they kind of laugh about this in a way, and the girls in the office, they kind of get a giggle out of that. We know Wes is having a good time when we see him. We can hear him in the canteen there giggling to himself. And he said, I don't know, I think he's kind of nuts, but but I'm living the dream because I'm preserving the history of soldiers, their service with these artifacts. Yeah. I got tons and tons.
You got to have the heart for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned that because, that's true. I can't tell you and I can't explain to you where that came from, but the best way I can think of is through my father. Mm-hmm. He had a deep, deep, deep respect for veterans. He never served. Mm-hmm. He was like me. Mm-hmm. He never served. He tried. Mm-hmm. He wanted to join the Air Force, but he couldn't. He only had one eye. So here, go home.
Yeah.
So, but he had the deepest respect. There's a photograph of a gentleman here on the wall here. That was his school teacher when he was a kid. And right to the day he died, he had a photograph of that guy by his bedside and the story behind it, and the poem High Flight that was written John Gillespie McGee, a Canadian. So the importance, not just about the personal narratives, but about the artifacts as well, too. I attribute that to a very good personal close friend of mine. I've known him since probably 1982. Oh my God, I'm getting old.
Well, back. Doesn't seem like that long ago, but then you realize you count up the numbers.
Count up the numbers, yeah. I've known this fella that long, been good friends. He lives in Missoula, Montana, Hayes Autopolic. He's been not just a very close friend, but a mentor in how to preserve and what to preserve and what to look at. And then also, he's helped me craft the concepts of how to display things. I've gone to shows of events where guys put up a display of material, and it's like they just took a bucket of stuff and plopped it on the floor. Yeah. There it is.
Like a garage sale.
Exactly, and I just don't like that. My displays are I don't like to use the word professional because I don't consider myself professional, but they're very focused and they're very detailed. So when you walk up to something, you'll stand there and you look at it, okay, that's that, that's this, that, okay, that's that, that's, oh, there's stuff here. Okay, there's these little things, and everything ties in. It's all common thread. At the dinner here coming up on the 18th, I'll be setting up a couple of displays that are somewhat unique. I've had a request because I do these displays at all the veterans dinners. I did one of women's corps at different women's branches. So I set up this display. Canadian women's are like the RCAF Women's Division, the RENS, Women's Canadian Navy, the Canadian Women's Army Corps, as well as the United States Marine Corps Women's Reserve, the U.S. Army Air Force Women's Division, as well as the U.S. Army Women's Corps. And I had people coming up, what's that? And I said, well, that's women's uniform. And the president at the time, Sheila, said, I think you should get up there and talk about this. Okay, I'll talk about it. So I explained this, and guys are sitting there, oh, we never knew that. I had ladies come up afterwards and said, I remember that uniform. I remember wearing that. I was back in the service back in that day, and my mom used to wear that uniform and this, that, and it was just so cool because now they're connecting these things. But also, too, it brought out that aspect of women in the service, which, again, that ties back to the ladies' auxiliary. Yeah. Some of these gals, they did serve, and you can tell the ones that served, they're serious about what they do. They're very cool. But it opens up that whole prospect that it wasn't just the guys sort of thing. And I talk about that a lot when we do our tours.
This Saturday, the 18th of July, is when you're having your celebrations. What is going to happen here?
Oh, that's going to be a day. That's going to be a lot of fun. So the Royal Canadian Legion it's the 100th anniversary in general. This branch was actually formed in January of 1927. So for 99 years, going on 100 years, so we decided we'd like to have a special event. So what we did, luckily, we had one of our executive members. He was with the Medicine Burns Club. Mm-hmm. So what they did, we got together with them because the Burns Club, they know what they're doing when it comes to organizing events and stuff like that. They know what they're doing. They do put on the Robbie Burns dinner, which is a huge success. So they've got the experience. Not saying that we don't. The Legion's got the experience, but these guys go a lot broader range. So we sat down with them the first meeting, and you could tell the excitement in the air because they were getting excited. Yeah, we can get these guys. We can do this. We can do the Medicine pipes and drums. We've got Celtic dancers. We've got another group that can come and do stuff. We can do this. We can do a beer garden. We can do that. We can do a banquet. And we're just sitting back. Okay.
Drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, like, okay, whoa. Now, let's tone it down a little bit. Let's plan on this here. So there's going to be two things going on, and we're selling tickets for two different things, but it's happening on that same day. One will be a beer gardens just outside here, and that'll be run by the Legion and the Burn Society. And that'll run till, I think it's about 4 o'clock. I got that on the calendar there. And then afterwards, we're going to have the banquet, which is going to be Combination Banquet Celtic Festival, which I think I'm excited about that. Mm-hmm. There's other things we talked about earlier that I'm really kind of excited about too, because I'm doing the two displays, and but there'll be silent auctions and stuff like that going on. So it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a really good time.
And that happens on Saturday, July the 18th.
July the 18th. I've got a poster right there with all the extra information, which we'll pass on to you as well. Tickets are available at our office here, and come on in and join the festivity. It's going to be a good time. I think it's going to be a wonderful time. I know one thing, the Robbie Burns dinners are always a really good time.
I think there might be some haggis involved here. I think I saw on the poster.
Yeah, I know there's going to be scotch.
Oh, okay.
So, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, and if someone is watching this and thinks, I'd like to become a member of the Legion, how do we do it?
Come on down. Come on down to the Legion office. They'll have a form there. Just fill out the form and talk to the ladies here. They're great ladies. Our building manager and such like that. They're good at what they do, and we'll sign you up. And it's $60 a year, which is a pretty good bargain. Now, where we are right now, and I'm going to have to explain this real quickly. This is what's called the canteen. This is the actual Legion entity right here. Mm-hmm. On the other side of the building is the Schooners. That's a pub. What we did with that was going back now about 10 years or so, where they incorporated that under the ALCB regulations to be a separate entity, but under the umbrella of the Legion. So the Schooners over there, we've got an amazing cook. She comes up with some specials, daily specials. Their beef on a bun. Oh my God. It is amazing. Great food, great atmosphere, good prices for refreshments and such like that. This place here, the canteen, it's available for food service as well too. But we have to let the girls know on the other side because the servers come from the Schooner side. But we use this a lot for functions. Remembrance Day, packed to the rafters, and it was absolutely fantastic. We've had the Medicine Pipes and Drums come walk right through here, right up to the stage, and think about that, pipes and drums, and this kind of it is. But everybody's just rocking out, and they're just enjoying it, just loving it. One of the pipes and drums guy, he was past president of the Legion, Malcolm Flash, and cool cat. All of them are cool cats. And that's one of the things that's really kind of interesting. Legion members are very interesting gentlemen and ladies because they all have a story. Some have lots of stories.
Like you.
Yeah, I could keep on talking for hours and hours and hours. You'd run out of, those memory cards and those things, they'd be full. But so when they start talking and they start opening up, you can tell that it's virtually and literally therapeutic because they want to get things, they want to talk to somebody. I said before, sometimes they can't talk to their wife, they can't talk to their daughter. So they sit down across the table with a refreshment and they start talking. And that's cool. I like that. I'm more than happy to listen. And I remember a lot of those stories, and I refer to a lot of them when we do tours and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the tradition continues.
And it continues, and I hope that we make it to the 150 and 200 after that. Of course, I'm not going to be around, but I think
Your memory will survive.
I sure hope so.
Thank you for the visit.
Well, much appreciated, Brian. We're really happy to have you here. We're happy to host you here, and more than happy to have you back anytime.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, this is Brian again, and I'd like to ask you to do a favor. We can't do this work without people like you, so if you can, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about Bring Back the Porch.